Hello world and all the readers who inhabit it, my name is Bridget and today I will be doing a book review of the book Four Dead Queens by Astrid Scholte.
Dot 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 dot. Ooh. Book. Mine.
So, a little disclaimer before I actually get into the book review. 1. I have never actually done a verbal book review before. I have always been able to write down my thoughts via paper or the web. And the problem with this is I suck at talking. So I have no idea how I'm going to be able to articulate my thoughts coherently with this mediocre oral contraption over here. And even more, I have never done a spoiler-free review before, and I have absolutely no idea how I am supposed to substantiate my thoughts and feelings on this book without actually referring back to details from the text. So really, I am just a big ball of mess and thoughts and confusion and conflict, but nevertheless I want to do this book review because I want to say that I have accomplished just that. I want to have overcome this first major booktuber hurdle, which is posting your first book review, and more importantly, posting your first book review of an arc. By doing this, I feel like I could finally confidently say that I am a booktuber. I am a person that contributes to the hype before the hype actually starts accumulating. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm sorry. My book is okay. It landed on a nice rug. There's a nice rug underneath me. I'm stroking the book, apologizing for my sudden, passionate vent. Okay, so now that I've said my part, let's get into the actual book review, shall we? So Four Dead Queens is about a 17-year-old girl named Carolee Corrington, and Carolee has essentially been raised on the sea. Her parents own a boat where they travel and do business on, and it is sort of predestined that she is going to take over the business when she grows up. The only problem with this is Carolee is very turned off by the idea of life at sea. She believes it is dull and humdrum and not stimulating enough for her. What Carolee does find utterly exhilarating, as well as has a knack for, is stealing. At a very early age, Carolee realized that she has very sticky fingers and has a talent for weaving in and out of small places without being caught. And so Carolee winds up getting into cahoots with another boy who's in the business of thievery, and over time she becomes one of the most skilled thieves ever. Still, this doesn't prevent her from getting into one hell of a debacle. One day, her employer orders her to steal a package from a messenger, which, unbeknownst to her, contains some very integral information. In the package is a series of recordings that divulge the four queens of Quadra being assassinated. And just like that, Carolee's world starts unraveling and everything that she has ever known turns on its head. Suddenly, she finds herself on the run from her boss, who wanted those recordings for his own personal agenda. She winds up collaborating with the messenger, Varian, in order to get to the kingdom before the murders take place, and all the while, romance and chaos and betrayal and bloodshed ensue. So I guess I'm gonna start off with what I really liked about this book. So based on what I just told you about the book, I think that it's safe to say that this premise is just riveting. It genuinely is such a thrill ride because the entire time you're just trying to figure out who this assassin is. And the main reason why this story succeeds in executing this premise is because Astrid Scholte is so good at driving the reader off course. Astrid will provide the reader with little breadcrumbs along the way, leading them to believe that one person is the assassin, only to suddenly completely negate that theory and turn their attention towards a completely different candidate. Not only that, but Astrid literally structures the book in a way that is meant to deceive us. The book is not told in chronological order, thus allowing her to tamper with the timeline. And by tampering with the timeline, it causes us readers to actually eliminate certain character characters from our list of potential assassins. So when it actually comes to that final reveal, we don't actually get it until the answer is literally blaring us in the face. And it's really enthralling because when I look back on the book as a whole, the clues were there. They were kind of really obvious, but because of the way that Astrid structured the book and the way that she crafted these different characters' perspectives, I was just led totally astray. And that's just something I need to commend the author for, because her technique was just ingenious. But aside from the book's engrossing plotline, one more time, I just want to emphasize that you are not going to want to put this book down. You are not going to get bored, because the entire time you're going to be on the edge of your seat trying to figure out who this friggin' assassin is. Where was I? Oh yeah, I want to talk about character development. Specifically, the main character, Carolee. I think what I love most about Carolee is that she's not what you would expect out of a thief. Yes, she is very talented. She is agile and can weave in and out of small corners. She can put on a brilliant show in order to confuse and get what she wants. But at the same time, her livelihood has not turned her callous in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I would say that she is exuberant with passion and emotion. She is impulsive and very headstrong, which are definitely character flaws, but she also cares so deeply about the people that she gets to know, and she always feels compelled to help them in whatever way she can, even if there is a part of her, the thief in her, that is constantly insisting her to be selfish. For example, she and Varian, they have a sort of topsy-turvy relationship over the course of the book. There's this part of her that is constantly nagging her to just grab what she needs and bolt, because there's bound to be a time where he lets her down and turns her in. However, when Varian reveals a very personal bit of information about himself, she just cannot leave. And again, this just shows that even though she is a thief and she has been stealing her entire life, she is not cold, and that is something that I really admire about her character. And on top of being a very vehement individual, I like the fact that Astrid did not make Carolee an overpowered or untouchable character. Carolee actually underwent a very unpleasant experience, and now she suffers from a degree of PTSD. And I thought that this was a very interesting supplementary element to add to her character because, again, she is a thief. She is constantly getting herself into these very tedious and sometimes highly dangerous situations. Time and time again throughout the duration of this story, Carolee finds herself in these uncomfortable situations where she has to coax herself and tell herself that the worst of it will be over soon in order to endure. And I just really adored this aspect of her character because it made her more human and relatable. I don't need any more female badasses that are just badass for the sake of being badass. I want some female badasses who are badass because not only do they overcome physical obstacles, but they can overcome personal turmoils. In addition to Carolee, I was also a really big fan of the queens. They were also different and they had divergent morals, yet they were united in their objective to keep their society functioning, as well as in the fact that they all had to make personal sacrifices. I think that's one of my favorite details in this narrative. Typically, in stories that entail kingdoms and castles and whatnot, we focus on the perspective on the commoner rather than the perspective of the person of royalty. And so we never actually talk about or reflect on the struggles and sacrifices that kings and queens have to make in order to ensure that their society has structure. I like that this book actually expresses the queen's yearnings and their connections with the outside world because it humanizes them in a way that I think we humans typically forget to when we look at a figure of authority. Also, just because everyone likes to know when there's a bit of diversity in books, there are 2, maybe 3 lesbian couples mentioned in this book, and it's wonderful because the detail is mentioned just so straightforward, so plainly and simply, which really just reinforces the idea that love is love and it doesn't matter who you fall for as long as they make you happy. Alright, so now that I've pointed out the things that I love about Four Dead Queens, I'm going to quickly touch upon some of the things that I wasn't a huge fan of. I just want to mention quickly that a lot of these pitfalls that I'm going to be mentioning are really just personal preferences of mine. There's just some things in books that automatically make me roll my eyes and not like them as much. But again, something that I personally might not like in a book, you might be a really big fan of. So what I guess I'm trying to say is that I am in no way trying to speak harshly about the author's choices. These are just some elements and tropes in books that I personally just don't have a taste for. And I want to mention them because this is my review. Okay, so first thing, there is a case of hate to love insta-love. So the thing is, I really love hate to love stories. I always love if two characters start out with this really antagonistic, hostile relationship and gradually learn to respect each other and then eventually fall in love. And the foundations for a hate to love relationship were definitely there. It's just it happened way too quickly. This entire book takes place within a span of 2 to 3 days, I believe. So to think that these two individuals started out as enemies and turned into sappy lovers in that little bit of time, it's just unrealistic to me. Plus, while the characters did have chemistry, I didn't think that they had enough chemistry. I don't know, maybe I just wanted some more steamy stuff. Woo! But yeah, I thought that the romance could have been a little bit better. And number 2, there is this thing that happens in a lot of YA novels during the climax. You know, the war is on the brink of happening, bodies are already dropping dead, people are screaming and yelling and yearning for a solution, and what do the main characters decide to do? They decide to have a make-out session. Really? Really? Is this the most appropriate time to be doing this? You couldn't have started doing this like a few hours ago when at least people just weren't in a freaking panic. Nah, it's when everybody is freaking panicking and people could probably use your damn help in this freaking horrifying, traumatizing situation, but no. You just gotta go into your own quiet corner and make out while people continue to die and fire ensues and there are gunshots or whatever. Not that I'm saying that this is exactly the scene that happened in the book, but you know, it's that trope. It drives me insane because in a real world, no one would be freaking taking like a half an hour to an hour to freaking make out with someone. Yeah, maybe if they knew that the time was coming, that they'll do like a peck on the lips or something, but nah. You don't got that sort of time! So yeah, that happened in the book, and it made me really mad. Is it just me? Am I the only one that wants authors to stop doing that? Does it always have to be before that moment where just chaos ensues? Because you could be utilizing that time a lot better. Honestly, I didn't even know I was that passionate about that trope, but it felt good to get it out at an appropriate time. And lastly, number 3, I thought that the ending for this book was a little too neat. And I'm not saying that every little problem that was addressed in this book was fixed, because it wasn't. But it does seem to me that if the problem was not fixed immediately, a plan was suddenly brought into fruition so that the problem could be fixed in the very near future. And maybe I'm just one of those pessimistic people that think that things don't fall into place that easily, but considering the world that Astrid created, I think that the ending was not entirely suitable. And I'm not saying that I want these characters to be unhappy. Of course I want them to be happy. They're my babies and they went through a freaking horrible fiasco throughout this entire book. They deserve some happiness. But still, I can't help but feel like it was just turnaround after turnaround after turnaround. Everything was just kind of handed to them on a silver platter, and although I know that this is supposed to be a standalone, and obviously Astrid wanted to wrap up as many storylines as she can, I repeat, considering the world that she created, I just thought that the ending was a little too peppy. She added a cherry on top, and well, she didn't need the cherry. She didn't need it. Alright, so those were all of my thoughts and feelings on Four Dead Queens by Astrid Scholte. Regardless of my personal preferences, I definitely believe that you should pick up this book when it comes out in February of 2019. Overall, I rated this 3.5 stars, and I would absolutely recommend this book to anyone that is interested in an exhilarating, suspenseful tale full of great characterization, an engaging plotline, and a very, very unique format. Leave a comment down below telling me if you're interested in reading Four Dead Queens when it comes out. And if you are interested, tell me what you're looking forward to most. On a final note, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope that this review wasn't too much of a mess. I hope that you enjoyed watching, and I will see you guys next Monday with a new video. Bye-bye! My hand is a dolphin! Hosting your first book review of an arc. At a very early... Birds! One die. One die. How you going? Okay. She... Personal sacrifices. Yep. And... The book is not told in chronological... Oh my gosh, pronounce the word. My dog has come to join me. Hi. Say hi, Hedwig. Say hi. Come on, Hedwig. Say hi. Say hi, camera. Say hi. Hello, my name is Hedwig. I like to snore a lot because my nose is squished into my face. Yay! Squishy faces! Squishy faces! Squishy faces! Squishy faces! You're just like... higher than the floor. Excuse me, sir. Who is doing construction? I'm doing a book review.